I don't even like medication like paracetamol and stuff, so I never expected to be on pills like antidepressants. Like, I was offered it so many times. I was offered other drugs and all of this, but I just thought, like, I'd rather deal with things my own way than involve antidepressants, because I have such an addictive personality as well. Like, I'd get addicted to it, and that's even more of a downward spiral. Like, I was already bad enough. I didn't need to go 10 times worse by being addicted to pills as well. So it was easier to not take medication for me.
We get trained about medication. I think medication is helpful. I have personal experience of antidepressants and second-hand experience of anti-anxiety medication. It's not right for everybody. There are different types of medication, so classically they work in two different ways. If you want to look at a very simple overview, one produces happy hormone, and the other one stops the happy hormone being eaten up by your system. But the effect of both of them is the equivalent of stabilizers on a bike. It stops you wobbling and falling off while you're getting better. So I don't object to it. It's difficult to say that you can't get addicted, because there are some antidepressants that you have trouble coming off. They're not necessarily psychologically addictive or physiologically addictive, but you can get used to them. And once you get used to something, it can be very hard to stop. Even a placebo can become addictive, which is a strange thought. But the fact that you think it's doing you good can be as useful as whatever the chemicals are inside it.
So I've seen 6 different therapists, and each time they've not been keen on me going onto medication, except for 2 of them who did want me to go on medication, including one of them was a psychiatrist, so she was obviously like, have medication, but I personally don't really like it. I understand that sometimes it's necessary, and for some people it is necessary, but I would like to try my absolute hardest to get over this via like CBT and other types of therapy before I say, okay, I'm definitely going to go into medication.
I've never had medication. I've never taken it. I've never been prescribed it. I've never spoken to a doctor about my illness, so I wouldn't have been. I'm not sure I would ever have taken medication. I have a major hang-up about drugs. I won't even take paracetamol. I don't like taking any sort of medication. I think that's part of my illness.
I didn't really want treatment because I wanted to deal with it myself, which is probably a bad idea, but it worked for me anyway.
I think that's true, because a lot of people, I don't know anyone who's been openly accepting of medication for their mental illness as soon as they were diagnosed or whatever, but I do think it is possible to lessen it or even get rid of it to an extent without medication for some people. But I think after a certain amount of time, if you've tried multiple things and it's not working, then I think you do have to just say, look, I'm unhappy and this might help, so give it a try.
I want to go through the pain. I want to actually suffer a little bit. I actually think that's good for me, because I spent X number of years having to convince myself that that was true, that the pain not going to kill you, the pain will be good for you in the long run. So I try to avoid taking any sort of medicines, and therefore I'm sure I would have been the same if I'd been prescribed something for my illness. I'm sure my attitude would have been, no, I don't want to take that, I will work through this myself. I don't recommend that to other people. It's kind of worked for me. I've kind of got through it without medication. Would I have recovered earlier if I had medication? Who knows? But certainly I would encourage people to find out about the treatments that are available, find out about the medication, try it. If it works for you, then brilliant, use it. If it doesn't, then don't. But there certainly are medications available that weren't available when I was younger. So yeah, try anything that works. Medication, counselling, whatever it is, you should try all the possible treatments, see what works for you.
Fight it in every way you can. So I believe medication can and sometimes should be used, but I don't believe it should be the only thing that is used as a treatment, because I found, especially for me, the first time I was diagnosed, that was the only thing than anybody really did. And whilst it did help the first time, I didn't actually have any long-term therapy, or no one told me about how lifestyle choices and habits could help, and nobody looked at any other factors that could be causing it. They just fell back onto medication.
Therapy is a kind of very loaded word, because everybody thinks of it being like, I don't know, Frasier on telly.
I don't feel like I need therapy at the moment. I feel like I'm in a good place, and whilst a few years ago I think it could have helped a lot, I managed to deal with it on my own for quite a lot of what was going on. And I think working through it on my own helped me in a lot of ways as well. But I think therapy can be a very, very useful tool.
Group therapy, where everyone sits in a circle, we're all very English. Nobody really wants to tell everybody else what's going on in what feels like an unsafe space. Who knows who these people are, what they're going to say? And quite often therapy isn't like that. It's just saying there are certain problems I have, that I've developed these habits, what can I do about them? So I say, okay, why don't you try this? And, you know, the CBT for depression is very straightforward. But getting started, for anxiety, it's very straightforward. For panic, it's massively effective because, again, it goes to the heart of the problem. What you've got is this, and the thing you need to do is this. And if you can do that, and we'll help you do that, because right now you can't face doing that, all of it on your own. It's like weightlifting or running a marathon. I can't go up now and run a marathon. I'd like to think I could. But if I was to train and start running at the end of the road and then back again the first day, in fact, I'm not running, walking to the end of the road and then back again. The next day I might have a break. Walk to the end of the road and a bit further the next day, maybe run the third day. That's how it works, it builds up slowly. Which I think, again, is important. And if you try and do too much too soon, you could break yourself. So it's all about doing it slowly. And there is a path, there is a way that's been proved, a bit like an instruction manual for how to fix a car. Back in the days when cars used to have bits you could take out, there's things called the Haynes manual. And it was a diagram of what's under the bonnet, and if you wanted to fix your brakes, you needed a screwdriver, you needed a brake lever, you needed this, a hammer, a spanner, and it would tell you what to do and what orders to get the bits off, fix them up, put them back on again. That's kind of what therapy is. Over the years, we found different things work and different things don't. So we don't do the things that don't work, we do the things that do work, and that seems, for 3/4 of the people we see, to help. If it doesn't work for everyone, we can have someone who's even more experienced, maybe a proper mechanic. So rather than fixing yourself, you get somebody else in to fix you. If that doesn't work, well, maybe we have a combination of mechanics and drugs and whatever else it is. So that's what I like. It's a practical solution to an impractical problem. One of the interesting things about therapy is you're supposed to be a blank canvas. If you come to see me, you know I'm married with children, and you're not married and haven't got children. If you know I have depression, and you have depression, or if you come to me with anxiety and think, but you only have depression, what do you know about anxiety? It could influence the way you interact with me. And a lot of interaction about how you deal with a therapist, what problems you bring. I try not to bring too much of myself to it. It's a delivery of information. But I do a type of therapy called CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy. It's very practical, it's very goal-focused. It's a way of saying, this is where we are now, this is where we're going to go in the future. How do we get from here to there? Here are a series of hints and tips, life hacks, for want of a better word, which you can apply to your life and which will help you going forwards in the future. Sometimes we get into bad habits. If you are depressed, the classic one is you stop seeing people, you stop looking outwards, you start looking inwards, you withdraw from society, you stop doing the things that give you positive reinforcement, and the more you stop doing them, the less you want to do them. It becomes a vicious cycle, which you can reverse very slowly by getting yourself to start doing things you don't want to do and go to places you don't want to do. If you look at any psychological problem in terms of 4 areas, you've got your thoughts, your behaviours, your emotions, and your physical symptoms. CBT believes they're all linked. Cognitive behavioural therapy only deals with 2 of those: cognitions, your thoughts, and your behaviours. Counselling deals with your emotions. What's happened, how it makes you feel, how that has an influence on where you are now, how understanding that will help in the future. There are all sorts of other bits of therapy in between, none of them can really treat physical symptoms because they tend to be the product of behaviours, thoughts and emotions. If I hadn't had depression, I wonder if I'd still have chosen this job. And I suspect I probably would have done, because it offers me an opportunity to connect with people and to help them. It requires a year's training rather than, say, 7 years to be a doctor or a clinical psychologist. The further up the ladder you go, the more training it requires. So this is entry-level psychology, which has entry-level requirements, which is the beautiful thing about it. And I'd recommend it to people.